Hey James, it's Dan here. I'm just tired of typing today. I figured it'd be easy to make you a video. It'd probably be clearer as well. So here's the deal with this whole 2 week cycle thing. We thought it'd be easier to do them in Google folders. So as you see, I shared with you a Google folder. You should have got a direct email to it. But then I also have the link directly to your folder in the email that I sent you. So here's the deal. Basically, let me open this document. This might be the best way to do it. We started with these 2 week cycles. We're in the middle of cycle 2 right now, so the goal is to like try to get you caught up with those 2 cycles. But I have a plan for that I think will work that I want to explain. But basically, here's how it looks. Folks who started the program, like right when we started it, was I think like January 9th or 7th, whenever that first day of school was. So they were reading about the beginning of class and this right to learn activity. They filled out a strategy worksheet about the right to learn and then a lesson plan in which they planned for the beginning of class and worked the right to learn in there. That was due January 13th. Then the next week, they actually taught that class. They recorded it using GoReact. They completed a reflection on it, and that was it. We watched the videos, offered some feedback, went back and forth. So now we're in this week, this first week of week 2. Folks are reading about the start and the end, or sorry, the end of class is what that should say. I'm going to take that out there. The end of class, and then a mastery check or like an exit ticket or something at the end. And then the deliverables, they do that same as this week too. They do a strategy worksheet with the end of class this time in the mastery check. Then they plan a lesson plan. The next week, teach it, record it, reflect upon it. And you can see those due dates. So we're, at the end of this first week. But here's my plan. You can always look at this document that has the due dates in there. Pretty straightforward looking at the rest of the cycles. This third cycle we haven't yet started. That starts later. But if I close this and go back to your folder, I have a folder for you called Cycle 1, 2 Makeup. I'm kind of like putting those together a little bit. So I numbered these in the order that I would like you to do them. So let's just look at them real quick. So number 1, this is the beginning of lessons. There's a video from me. It explains the cycle, so there might be some redundancy with what I'm telling you as well. But if you want to give that video a look, you certainly can. Then if you click this resource, it's the start of a lesson. Sort of like what we think you should be thinking about, what you should be looking for at the beginning of a lesson. And then some resources. You don't have to click on all these, but some that interest you, that'd be great. And then we have a video about writing to learn, an example of what it is. Then we have an article about the origins of writing to learn. You can follow that. And then we have a document about writing to learn versus learning to write. Essentially, with Write to Learn, it's just a quick way, the way that we do it, and you'll see an example in this video. Give a picture, students free write about it for 3 minutes, and then they debrief after. It should be short, it should be low stakes, it should be engaging. So if you can come up with a compelling picture or question or text, something that's very bite-sized, but then they can react to it. And then hopefully whatever that is you're planning can really activate their thinking for the lesson. So, say you were teaching a lesson on Roman gladiators. Maybe your Write to Learn question would be a picture of 2 football players colliding. And you could just say, in what way? Some people think, you can be something like this. Some people think football players are like gladiators. Are they right or wrong? Right. Something compelling like that. And then you could go into gladiators, but kids have already thought about like a modern real world parallel to gladiators in their own society. So maybe now the content's more relevant. It's more provocative. They're more interested in the lesson. Maybe they'll be with you moving forward. That's kind of the point of this. But beyond that, we also want you to think about what else is happening during the beginning of a lesson. Like, what are your students doing? Hopefully, like entering silently, getting organized, whatever it might be. But then we realize you probably have some obligations too. While they're doing some stuff, you might be taking roll. You might be, writing something on the board. You might have a lot of things you need to be doing as well. So we really want to see what's that tension like. How do you handle that? Then there's some other questions about the beginning. There's some questions about the writing to learn. So essentially this worksheet's walking you through thinking about the beginning of lessons and thinking about writing to learn. And then we want you to plan a tight beginning of lessons and a writing to learn as your hook or do now or launch. And we want to see that. That was cycle 1. But what I'm saying is you could do this worksheet, then maybe go to this number 2 worksheet, which is actually in cycle 2. It's about the end of lessons. So it's very similar to what I just showed. There's a video from me sort of explaining the focus. There's some resources about the end of lessons. So you'd look at both those and then you'd answer these questions. The same type of questions about the last 5 to 10 minutes of class. And then what's a lesson closure activity or a mastery check, some way that you're getting data to know what your students are learning. And what they're not grasping. That's sort of the focus of this. But what I'm proposing is taking that worksheet 1 where you're planning a beginning and taking the worksheet 2 where you're planning an end and making it the same lesson. that would just allow you to teach one lesson, knock out a couple things versus teaching two. Um, to me, that's more streamlined, but for you, it might be more stressful. That's an idea that I have for getting you caught up. But say you've filled out both of these worksheets, 1 and 2. You've got a good idea for a beginning using a writing to learn. You've got a good idea for an end in what some way you'll collect information about what students know and don't know. Then I want you to plan a lesson incorporating both of those. And I'll open this lesson plan. This is our lesson plan template. You may have something different. We'd like you to use this for this cycle just to kind of see the areas that we think are important for a lesson plan. But we'd like to know the standard, essential questions. We have some resources there to help you out if you're not familiar with those. What's the objective for the day? Here you can just tell me what are students going to basically be doing? Reading, writing, speaking, listening, and which of those are they going to use the most, or maybe you want to flag a couple of them. And then why are they doing that? Are they doing it to compare contrast, cause and effect, something like that? Just you can do that. Don't worry about brick and mortar. We'll talk about that later in the program. Cool. Then you just plan out your lesson. What's happening at the beginning? How much time will it take? What are you doing? What are they doing? Middle of the lesson, what are you doing? What are they doing? How much time will each of these activities take? And then at the end, what does this look like? What are you doing? What are they doing? How much time will it take? And there's some questions about assessment, differentiation, resources. But basically just fill that out. But again, for this, I'll really be honing in on your beginning, which that first worksheet you would have worked on would have helped you prepare for, and the end, which that second worksheet you worked on would have prepared for. So that would be the end of a week. I would expect, if you could do that in a week, that would be awesome. You completed both those worksheets, you've got a good lesson plan. Then the following week, you would actually teach this entire lesson and you'd record it. And again, we'll talk about that later. If you think you're ready to record, reach out to me. Don't record before you talk to me because I'll get you set up on our program. I just didn't want to put too much on you right now. But you'd actually teach that lesson, record it, and then you would fill out these 2 reflections. The fourth one's about the end of a lesson. The fifth one's about the beginning of a lesson. So you just kind of think about those 2 components. So essentially we're taking 2 weeks worth of prep and condensing it down into 1 for you. And then you would teach that 1 lesson instead of 2 that would cover both of those things. So that's my proposal. And I mean, in terms of due dates, I don't want to really put anything on you since you're just starting. But I mean, if I could have these first 3 in roughly a week, that would be awesome. Then I'll get you up and running and go React. You can teach the lesson, record it and go React, and then reflect on these the following week. And then we can see what we'll do for that third cycle. We'll find a way to fit that in at some point too. So that's generally my ideas. You can open up these documents and start typing in them right now. These are all yours. This whole folder, this James Jones folder, is all your stuff. If you ever want to share anything in there, you definitely can. Let's say that Go React doesn't work, but you do have a video for some reason couldn't upload. You could throw that in this folder and I could watch it as well. This is sort of your little sandbox in Aspire. But just to recap, when you get up and running with this, it'd be great to have 1, 2, 3 done within about a week, 4 or 5 done that following week with a video. Hopefully that's clear. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thanks a lot.